Welcome to Box Recaps. Today I'm going to explain the movie Teen Wolf, released in the year 2023. The movie begins at a Japanese restaurant where a guy named Liam Dunbar and a girl, Hikari, are serving food to their customers. The door opens and a menacing hooded figure walks in. He approaches the counter and places a bullet on the counter. We can see it has a design on it. The man asks the girl a riddle, and Liam interrupts that she does not understand. The man tells Liam not to interfere, as he knows Hikari understands him perfectly well. Hikari answers the man, replying to his riddle, which is a jar. The man then says that he's looking for a specific jar which has a symbol of the Triskelion, 3 connected spirals. Hikari denies knowing about such a jar. The man continues that the jar is made from the wood of a sacred tree, used to capture a dark kitsune. This one houses a trickster spirit named Nogitsune. Liam again tells him that he doesn't know what he's looking for, and the people in the restaurant notice the tension and become alert. The man stares down at Liam and Hikari as tension builds, and soon a fight breaks out. Liam roars, showing his werewolf eyes as Hikari grabs a jar off of the shelves and runs out back. She makes it only a few yards when the man follows her outside and shoots at her. Hikari falls down as Liam follows them out. He again roars impressively and jumps at the man, giving him ample time to shoot at him. Both of them down, the man walks over to where Hikari has dropped the jar. Liam shouts at him that he doesn't know what he's doing and that he wouldn't be able to control the Nogitsune. The man says that he doesn't need to control it. He picks up the jar as the voice of the spirit speaks to him, guessing that the man wants retribution against someone, and tells him that they will play a game of chaos, strife, and pain, as the man sets the kitsune free. We then shift to a different scene where a building has collapsed and a girl with her dog is trapped inside. We see Dr. Alan Deaton talking to the rescuers, saying that they've called a professional to the scene to help them get the dog out, which is very vicious. Alan tells him that the guy he's called runs an animal shelter next to his clinic, and they've even given him a nickname due to his specialty with such cases, the Alpha. The Alpha soon arrives, and it is none other than Scott McCall, our favorite werewolf. Scott is led by Alan and the other guy inside, where the girl and the dog are. The walls are about to fall in where the two of them are, and Scott jumps down. The dog starts barking at him, but Scott soon calms him down by glowing his eyes red. The walls begin to shake, and Scott has to stop them from collapsing on them with his bare hands. He tells the girl to climb on him, and soon everyone is up to safety. The girl and her dog are tended to at the clinic, and Scott tells the girl how her dog thinks her to be a part of his pack, and that is why he was worried for her safety and bit everyone who came close. After she leaves, Alan points out that there's still time, and Scott mistakes it for him saying that Scott still has time to have kids, and says that he would like to have them as soon as he finds someone. Alan smiles, telling him that he sounds wistful, and tells him he'll lock up. As he leaves, Scott hears knocking at the door, and it is a girl, freaking out about something. But as soon as he opens the door, she vanishes. This was a vision of Allison, Scott's first love, who had died 15 years ago. Scott is shaken by this and walks back inside, when he feels there's someone there. Soon he comes face to face with Chris Argent, who's holding a gun. Scott tells him that it's okay, and he can chill, and they hug it out. Alan also arrives, and they ask Chris what he's doing there, when he tells Scott that he's been seeing Allison too. The three of them sit down to talk, as Chris relates to them how he has always dreamed about his daughter from time to time, but it has only been recently that he's been seeing full-blown visions of her. In pain and screaming, he wakes up from these nightmares. He also says that he hears a voice, and it only says one word. Scott says, Bardo, which is what he has been hearing as well. Chris's suspicions are confirmed, and they talk about how Bardo is the state between life and death, and he knows of a ritual that will help Allison. He believes that his daughter probably never passed on to whatever there is after death and needs their help. Alan is skeptical, but Scott is on board, and they decide to head back to Beacon Hill. Scott says he will gather some help. We then shift to San Francisco, where we meet Lydia. Lydia is giving a briefing when her colleague keeps interrupting her, much to her annoyance. He shows her that the files she handed them only have a single word repeated and no other information. Lydia takes the file and sees Allison repeated all over them. Disturbed by this, Lydia heads to her office, where she locks the door and sits down with a pen and paper, channeling her powers. She has flashbacks of when Allison died, and begins to write something on the pages. Next, we see a teenage boy sneak into an auto garage and hotwire a Jeep, and not just any Jeep, but Styles Jeep. This is Eli Hale, son of Derek Hale. Derek is acting consultant with an arsonist case alongside Sheriff Stilinski. He is given the news about Eli stealing the Jeep yet again and goes to get him. Later, they go home and we see a lot of distance between the two, as Derek wants to communicate, but Eli is defensive, as he's insecure about not being able to transform into a werewolf. He sneaks out of his room after Derek comes to get him so they can do something together. Meanwhile, Scott and Lydia meet up at the place of Allison's death, as they have to gather the dirt from there. They then meet up with Chris and Jackson, and he assembles the pages Lydia has written the instructions on. The pages make up the sacred wood, a stump which Chris says the ancient druids called a nematon. They decide to look for it, as the ritual needs to be done that night, at the full moon. They have the dirt from Allison's place of death, and the sword that killed her. We then jump to Deputy Parrish, who has a wild, steamy hormone sandwich with Malia, the daughter of Peter Hale, Derek's brother. Malia does not want a relationship, and goes to meet up with Lydia when she texts. During this time, Alan comes to Beacon Hill, the bullet we saw with the symbol on it, with him. He confronts Chris if he recently went to Japan, and begins asking him riddles. Chris starts getting aggravated, and his features are about to transform, when Alan throws some powder at him, and we see Nogitsune was possessing him. He flies away, and Chris is left unharmed. In the meantime, Lydia and Scott have met up with Malia and started looking for the sacred grove. They run into Eli, who tells them he knows where the tree is, and leads them to it. After they make him leave, they hold out the dirt and the sword, not knowing what else to do. Suddenly, wind starts to blow, and the dirt and sword fly from their hands and onto the stump. The sword is taken in, and then there's nothing. Thinking that their plan has failed, Scott, Lydia, and Malia turn away. Then, suddenly, white light flows from the tree, and Allison materializes on top of the stump, leaving them astonished. They rush the unconscious Allison to the hospital, where Scott's mother is on duty. They don't know whether it is Allison or not, as her body had been cremated. Scott's mother runs some tests and tells them that the girl seems to be healthy for someone who's supposed to have been dead for the last 15 years. Lydia tells her that it was not part of their plan, and they have no idea what is going on. Scott notices that Allison is not in her bed, and they go looking for her. Meanwhile, Allison has woken up confused, not knowing where she is. Still, her hunter instincts kick in, and she grabs a change of clothes and tries to sneak out. Malia finds her, but Allison knocks her down with ease. Scott chases her, telling her who he is, but she does not recognize him or his name. When she attacks him with scissors, he heals up, and Allison realizes he's a werewolf. She asks him where Derek Hale is, before running away. She runs into her father on her way out, but does not recognize him either. The gang discusses what it could all mean, and surmise that she must remember only being a hunter, and is going after Derek Hale, as to her, he is the alpha. At the police station, the sheriff and the others are called away, and only one guy is left. He is attacked by Nogitsune, who awakens the kitsune in him, apparently taking it from him. Nogitsune then goes to see Allison, who is about to attack him with the weapons she has found. But Nogitsune changes into her mother to lead her on against Scott and Derek Hale, telling her to destroy the monsters who destroyed her family. So Allison goes after Derek, who's with his son in the locker room, trying to encourage Eli that he's a decent player, and tells him to learn how to heal and become a werewolf. They are attacked by Allison, who Derek is surprised to see. After a brief fight, Derek tries to run, but Allison fires an arrow that injures him badly in the neck. She is about to take the final shot when Liam and Hikari arrive and save him. Allison runs away as Scott and the others arrive. Derek passes out from his wounds and tells him that they need to save Eli. They take Eli to Melissa's home, where Peter arrives and heals Derek's wounds very painfully with a burner. Scott goes to find Eli and protect him from Allison, and Melissa tells him that if it really is Allison, then he needs to remind her who she is. Meanwhile, Allison has found Eli at the auto shop, and Eli hides. He tries to jump her, but he's too unskilled. Scott arrives in time to save him, and they run, with Scott taking a moment to help Eli with his healing. Scott tells him to run, as he'll try to talk to Allison. While this is going on, the Onis set out by Nogitsune start attacking and taking Scott's friends one by one. They attack the house as well, and only Eli manages to run with Malia's help, but is soon taken by an Oni too. Scott tries to get through to Allison, but she's determined to kill him. Realizing the only way to make her talk is to give her what she wants, Scott lets her stab him. She takes him to a building where he again tries to talk to her before passing out from the wolfsbane she had coated her blade with, which is slowly killing him. Nogitsune again fills Allison's head with lies. Peter helps Melissa and Chris find Scott and Allison and follow the trail of their fight. Peter is convinced Allison is an illusion, and so is Chris apparently. While this is going on, Lydia and Jackson head over to a burn site to find out the reason behind the fires, suspecting it to be linked to everything going on. They figure out that the fires were to burn rowan trees to make mountain ash. Lydia immediately calls Malia and Parrish with this information, saying that she suspects the same chemical used 20 years ago to burn the fire that killed Derek's family is the same one used now. But the guy who came up with that formula is supposed to be dead. Jackson points out that this seems to be a recurring theme. Scott wakes up again and shows Allison the picture of them in his wallet. He talks to her about the winter formal and their kiss, and this time Allison remembers bits and pieces from their conversation. Realizing he's telling the truth, she burns the wolfsbane out of him and goes to find her father. Scott goes after her to tell her that he still loves her. Meanwhile, everyone taken by the Oni wakes up in a dark world where everyone is alive but tied up, watched by the Oni. Nogitsune arrives and throws Eli onto the lacrosse fields, where a game is going on. Lydia and Jackson discover the mountain ash surrounding the stadium and come face to face with the hooded man, which is Adrian Harris, their chemistry teacher, out for revenge. Scott and Eli find each other and try to tell the coach to stop the game before sundown, as that is when the Oni come out. The coach hands Scott a lacrosse stick. They play, and Eli scores, winning the game and his confidence. Allison is attacked by Peter, who is stopped by Chris, who knew that this is truly Allison, and they reunite. Harris shoots Jackson and uses Lydia's pain over her breakup with Styles and shows her what is going on in the other worlds. The Nogitsune transports Eli, Scott, and Allison there, where they are attacked by the Oni. Lydia watches helplessly until Jackson tells her that mountain ash does not work on banshees, and she wails loud enough to save Allison from an attack. The wail also reminds Allison of all the memories she had lost. Nogitsune then arrives and is about to kill everyone when Scott says he will die readily, as the divine move in the game set up by the villain is that Scott dies in Allison's arms. Scott makes Allison shoot him, but once Nogitsune's walls are down, he reveals that Hikari was using her kitsune magic to protect him, and he is unharmed. Just then, Parrish breaks through the barrier using Hellfire, allowing Melissa, Peter, Chris, and Malia through. They have silver weapons and bullets to deal with the Oni, and a battle goes down, which they win. Nogitsune is not giving up yet and transforms into a werewolf, reminding Scott of the bite he had given him once. Scott, Derek, and Eli also transform and attack. Nogitsune uses his illusion to divide and attack, but the werewolves break it and attack him. As Parrish tries to burn Nogitsune, Derek sacrifices himself to make sure that the evil spirit dies. As the dust settles, the group finds themselves back on the lacrosse team. Scott and Allison share their first kiss after 15 years, before Scott goes to Eli. Lydia also arrives with Jackson, and everyone hugs it out. The next scene shows us a memorial held for Derek, where the sheriff gives Styles' Jeep to Eli. We then see Scott back in LA with Eli and Allison, happy to be together and to see where life takes them. We also see Harris being taken to Eichen House, an asylum. The movie ends with Eli looking as a wolf and repeating his father's words, "Remember who you are." Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on the notification and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.